Guys, we are live. Okay, so welcome to another episode of the InstaHire Roundtable. This is a place where ideas and leaders meet. And today it's a very special episode. We have a topic which is very close to our heart: building a talent pipeline for long-term success. And before we begin with the episode, let's talk a little bit about what we do. InstaHire is a platform which helps companies to find talent with 10x more accuracy and 10x less time compared to any solutions in the market. We work with companies like Amazon, Walmart, PayPal, Cisco, Geo, Google, etc., and 10,000 other plus companies. So with that, let's start off the webinar. So today's roundtable have two speakers, two leaders in their field. First, I would like to call upon Preethi Ramdas. Preethi is the Director of Talent Acquisition at ASAPP. So over to you, Preethi, a brief introduction about yourself and what does ASAPP do and about your past experiences. Over to you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sarbajit. First of all, pleasure to be on this platform. I look forward, to interacting with you, Khalid, Rishi, and of course, all of them who've joined as well. So a little about me. I'm Preethi and I'm based in Bangalore, born and raised here in Bangalore. I come with close to about 17 years of experience, all in talent acquisition. I started off my career, as a university recruiter in a very small firm. And then, I moved to Target to work there for about 7 years. And then, many other organizations in between. And the previous to the current organization I worked was PayPal, where I closely worked with Sarbajit as well. And I was there for about 4 years. And then just about 4 months back, I joined ASAPP. So ASAPP is actually a machine learning AI. I wouldn't say a startup because there are close to about 400 employees globally. And when I joined it, I thought it would be a startup, but only after I kind of spent more time, it felt like almost like an established enterprise. So for me, I wouldn't really call it. It's like an in between a startup and a enterprise. So. The presence is, of course, in New York and a lot of places in LATAM, and of course in India we have a center in Bangalore with about 25 employees. That's a little about me, Sarbajit.
Welcome to the show, Preethi. And we have today Khalid. Khalid is managing talent acquisition at ShareChat. So over to you, Khalid. A brief introduction about yourself and about ShareChat. What new projects are you doing?
Thank you so much, Sarbajit. I'm looking forward to a very interesting chat today. To start about myself, I come with close to 10 years of experience. Currently working at ShareChat. I've been recently promoted into manager talent acquisition. Been there for almost 2 years. When I joined ShareChat, I think the engineering team was about 100 folks. We scaled it up to all the way 500 folks. Ended up building the whole leadership layer over there. Prior to that, I was working at Book My Show. Before that, I was in a company called a small bootstrap company called ASAPP Infotech. We built a product which got acquired by Myntra. Prior to that, I was in CrossFit. So my journey has been very diverse. I would say in the last 10 years.
Great to have you guys. Great to have you, Khalid. Great to have you, Preethi. And with that, we start off our discussion. So the first question I will have for Preethi and then for Khalid is, what are the critical components, what do you think, of a successful talent pipeline strategy, and how can organizations ensure their focus on the long-term success goal?
Okay. Thanks for that question, Sarbajit. And I think as a disclaimer, I'm assuming there would be a lot of TA folks who've joined this call as well. A lot of things that we will discuss in the call is something that you already know of, and maybe you're not practicing, and maybe there is not enough focus. So there's nothing going to be that, oh my God, I didn't hear about this at all kind of a thought. If there is, then I'd be very surprised and I'll be very happy to share some things like that as well. So
okay.
I think to answer your question, Sarbajit, it's a huge topic, right? From talent pipeline building, everything kind of in a talent acquisition world falls that particular in that particular aspect of it. I would say, there's a lot of stress, in making sure how do you really make it more long-term and more successful is to focus on the candidate experience. For me, that has actually worked, fairly well in terms of attracting is, of course, one challenge of it, but how do you make sure you really engage with the talent and make sure that, it maybe not for just that particular job, How do you sustain that conversation, keep them in the pipeline, engage with them? Even after I have moved companies, there are actually candidates who've reached out to me and saying that, hey, I know leadership with company, but I hope you remember me, and I'm sure a lot of recruiters in the call might have, some candidates, who they carry forward. It's also because of the experience, that they provide to them. For me, I think that's one of the top things, that kind of stands out, which is important, and that cuts across, the entire aspect of, candidate experience, according to me.
Okay. Okay. So candidate experience is one of the major things which you think should be in focus for building a long term, and also helps in employer brand as well, because
Yep.
like it helps to create an aura of a brand which kinds of care for its job seekers. Over to you, Khalid. What do you think? Like for the first question which I asked, what are the critical components of a very successful talent pipeline strategy, and on ensuring that companies focus on the long term growth? What they should be like? What are the critical things which they should be
Sure.
focusing
Thank you so much, Sarvajit. I think I would align with what Preethi mentioned, right? It's a very broad topic. And I do agree that, most of these things, the folks who have joined from the talent acquisition industry would already be practicing, but it's just that we call it out and they would realize, okay, yeah, this is something that I'm doing, right? And yes, I'll be also in absolutely if there's something that is a surprise to you, right? So I think I'll take a step back when we kind of talk about building a talent pipeline strategy, right? So to build an effective, proactive, like I'd say, talent pipelining is a proactive procedural approach to identify, qualify, and nurture the passive candidates towards an eventual hire, right? So,
okay.
in order to build a proactive talent pipeline, it is very essential as a recruiter to understand the company's strategic direction, right? Know what are my current needs, what is the future growth plan for the business, and this has to be done before we even start building and sourcing or sort of lay down the recruiting plan, right? It's very important to understand the roles that are critical for accomplishing the business goals,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
I'd say there are four key areas that I focus on when I'm looking forward to kind of build a talent pipeline. That's skills that I'm recruiting very frequently, repeatedly, roles that are hard to fill,
Mhm.
expected attritions, and roles that are critical to accomplish my future business goals,
Okay. Okay.
right? And then I'd lay down the steps that would basically identify, make initial contact, pre-screen the prospective candidates, nurture them, and set the interview and eventually make them hire, right? So I think we are going to discuss about it in detail in the questions to come.
Sure. So, Khalid, a little bit of a next question which we can go into. You have been working with companies who are in the like a scaling up mode or like an hyper growth mode. Okay, but like Book My Show, for example, or for the company which you told that Mintra had acquired, or ShareChat also in hyper growth mode. So, where you have to make a like a the talent should be such that they fulfill the next 6 months or 12 months or 18 months of strategy and like kind of growth which you will be thinking right now, right? It will be a future growth which the talent pipeline should be like fulfilling. So how do you think companies can leverage like say data and analytics to make decisions to for building a pipeline? And like how can you measure success? Like how good was your pipeline for say developer role, or for a marketing role, or say for an engineering manager role, for a senior VP role? So what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. So I think, see, I'd say, there are many data points, but one data that I very closely sort of analyze and very frequently is where my recruits are coming from. For example, their college background or the companies, right? And this is also to ensure that we are not getting the similar pipeline or about 10 folks when we are actually scaling up hiring, right? It's very much possible that we may get 20 candidates being appearing for the interview from the same company or from the same college, right? And then you're not actually paying attention to the diversification, right? So it's very important that we actually know that how much of the inflow of the profiles we are getting from which company, and then how do we actually control over it, right? I think in my personal views, two metrics that I sort of think is absolutely important to measure success is offer to joining ratio and TTF, total time to fill, right?
Okay. Okay.
And leveraging this data has always helped me measure the success of my pipeline in terms of its overall success.
Uh,
Over to you, Preeti.
Okay. So yeah, Preeti. So for this, like you have worked in companies, very large organizations like Target, Society General, and PayPal. Okay, right now in ASAP also you are growing ASAP, but these last three ones are pretty large, and the pipeline and everything needs to be properly maintained, and like a lot of data has to go in. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
to find out like what can be done to improve. And so there is, if there is a minute improvement also, like 1%, it can affect a lot, because they operate in billion, like the scale is in billions, right? The transactions are in billions, or the amount of like things which are going on is a huge scale. So what are your thoughts on this? What are the metrics, key metrics which you tracked, and what are the things, how data can help in leveraging this kind of decision, or making a proper, very good, healthy talent pipeline?
Yep, perfect. Data is key, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have to stress. I'm sure everybody kind of lives and breathes, that aspect of it. And I know as much as it's easy to say, it is that difficult to actually even get access and
Yeah.
to actually take insights, from the kind of data as well. So, thumb rule that I have been following is I don't really look at the survey reports, or there is a website, which actually throws in all the information about which company, what kind of engineers get paid, how much.
Hmm.
It is all over the place. When I actually did that, assignment, I had to do it for a specific assignment. I did that like a pilot part of it. And then to actually get the real flavor, I started talking to candidates and to actually validate that information. And it was completely, into two different pools. So first of all, don't rely on what the internet is showing you.
Hmm.
Take experience from your own. Talk to candidates, check what their current comp is, what is their expected comp is, what kind of companies and what kind of work that they've actually done, rather than relying on on the net for ready-made information. That's very, very important.
Okay.
Second, especially in a stage that we are in as an organization, it's a startup almost, I would say, but a lot of things, we rely on data and information. Like, hey, can we hire this kind of skill set? If so, how many can we grow in number? What's the kind of comp range? And for all of that, I would data really is super critical. And I think getting the right kind of information and what kind of insights you draw from it and what you make out of it is up to an individual. Like the same insight, how I read it, might be different in terms of what you are actually trying to achieve, of that particular data. So for
Hmm.
me, get hands on, create and rely on your own input and data, instead of let somebody else do ready made reports and and going by it. And use data for your success. Like if you're struggling with something, one particular skill set is really difficult to hire, build data around it. And I'm sure recruiters who are on the call have already done that in the past. Like make sure
Yes.
that it is your side to either make you win, or to say that, hey, you know what, this is not working and I don't think so we should hire for this role, or this is not the range you're looking for, or this is not the combination of skill set that you need to hire for. So make use of it and make the data fight for you, rather than you just going with some kind of random logic of, hey, this is what I have observed. So I think I've used it at the right time. But yeah, I think that's been my experience around
Okay.
importance of data.
Okay, great insights, Preeti and Khalid. So, Preeti, I wanted to ask you one more question. Is that how important is the employee value proposition? Like
Mhm.
when you speak of employee value proposition, like you have worked in, say, companies who have been like attracting very good talent throughout. But how important is this? Like the world is changing, right? Like there are companies who are coming in, and the talent is being scattered in these
Yep.
companies, right? So at this point of time, standing here, and right now you're leading a company which you are growing the team here. So how important is like EVP, sorry,
Yep.
employee value proposition in attracting very high potential candidates who can actually make your company like 10x or 100x?
Sure. Sure. And again, this entire concept of EVP and how do we make use of EVP, all that I would say was not even there like maybe 10 years before or,
Yes.
maybe, much before that. It's all like, like a new thing in terms of how we are, generating and how we are making use of it. So according to me, and everything that I'm sharing, folks, is just my experience and what I have learned, the last 15, 17 years. Having an EVP definitely makes very, it's very crucial for an organization and for teams as well. But that is not going to be the striking factor for a candidate at the attraction, phase of it. Like you're not going to be able to attract and sell your organization or your role to the candidate just relying on your EVP. I think the kind of experience you provide in terms of what kind of values the organization actually has, imbibing that through the entire journey of that candidate, from the beginning, and even if the candidate is rejected for whatever reasons, and how do you really close the loop is how you actually realize and make that EVP fit. So for me, it is the entire journey of it, and not just, having, like a vision and an EVP and just throwing it, at the face of the candidate, because nobody's going to really buy it, at the beginning of it. Representing it, realizing it, making the candidates feel, make them feel that through the journey is what is going to make, a larger lasting impact, according to me.
Okay, great insights, Preethi. So, Khalid wanted to have your take on this. So, what is the role which you think a very compelling employer value position play in attracting candidates who are very high potential and who are very very scarce, very less in number. So you have to attract them. So, how do you think this plays a role?
Sure. I mean, see, I'll just say that I have met with this experience at least a couple of times, wherein, we were trying to build, a team, I was trying to build a team in different organization from scratch, right? Wherein there was really a scarcity of that kind of talent, especially back, like about 3 years back, I was trying to hire IoT folks in India. Right. I think EVP is very, very, like I'd say it's that element of your organization which answers your candidate's question, why should I apply for this job? What is it in it for me? Right. And I'd say I'd like to highlight two very important reasons and as well as three key elements of EVP that kind of aid in attracting high potential candidates to any organization. Right. And that kind of helps in cultivating a long-term talent. So one is when you actually present the EVP in the right way, it offers a comprehensive look into each of the position that you are kind of recruiting, right? Making sure that the role is attractive to the top talent and it allowing the candidates to discover whether or not that this role is kind of aligns with their aspiration. Okay. Second is it enhances and elevates your entire employment brand, right? It kind of makes you more desirable landing point for the top candidates.
Okay.
Right. And the key elements are basically tangible rewards. I think I've seen this trend in the last few years, at least, that people are no more interested in a raw pay package only, right? Okay. They are kind of looking out for everything, the wages, bonus, commission, benefits, work tools, right? Different sort of offsites and many other things that are being offered along when they are when they're working in an organization, right? The opportunity. Second is the opportunity. It kind of helps the candidate understand in the next 1 to 2 years. For example, if I'm hiring somebody who's on the verge of growing into the next role, right, and is still open to come to my organization, right? This is my personal view, is they want to know where this opportunity will take them in another 2 years. Will they be able to make that journey to the next ladder, to the next step in the years to come, and how is it going to add value to their overall candidature? Third, the people and the work, right? At least there have been number of times in last 1 or 2 years that I've come across candidate being asking that they want to connect with their peer group, right? And that's for the pure reason that they want to understand that how will their day-to-day life will look when they start working at at XYZ organization that you're hiring, right? So I think EVP holds, right, a very important you know, very important, very much. I'm sorry, I'm not getting the word, but
Hmm.
very important for you to kind of draw the right candidates in your pipeline, right? It does a lot of hard work to you as you start building and nurturing the talent pipeline for your future.
Okay. So,
Sort of.
Khalid, what do you think about like these companies which you told of, like peer group which you have mentioned? But what do you think about when these companies leverage so internal resources such as like employee referrals, which happens, and career development programs and mentorship and kind of like branding is also done by like employees. So like the employee advocacy or evangelism, how do you think it also helps to strengthen the workforce? And like if you can give some examples, that will be great. So like some practical examples for the viewers who are viewing this.
I think you see, employee referral is definitely. I think everyone would agree to it that it's like a very very critical source for your hiring, right?
Yes.
And most of the companies at the end of the year or during the year would track down key, what is the source of that, right? So I mean, if you're able to develop a reputation as an organization that offers your team multiple opportunities for growth and development,
Hmm.
will definitely help you draw talented folks, right? So in my opinion, employee referrals are very very good for me in bringing the best and top talent, because the people that I'm recruiting with a certain competency, they would bring the people with a equal or higher competency,
Yes.
right? uh, Mentoring is very impactful tool to increase the employee engagement. That would help, that helps the organization retain the talent, the top talent, for a very long term, right? Because um, most of the times I know that folks would be actually looking to know what is the team is made of, who is leading the team, who is working in the team, right? Who am I going to report, who is going to mentor me, right? Who does this person reports to, right? So basically they want to know what sort of people that this person is going to receive the mentorship from, right? So it's very important and impactful too.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's about it, like in terms of using and leveraging the internal
Okay.
resources.
So, Preeti, over to you on the same question. Like for companies who are scaling up and companies who have like quite a popular name and like they have been advocating internal branding as well. Internal branding means like how diversity plays a role in the company, or how they are building tech communities inside, and asking others to also come in. And I remember like when I was like visiting this companies, large companies, they have a very very dedicated like team to do that, like tech talks and kind of stuff. So what do you think this tech talks and the internal employee branding, which is like employee evangelism on a certain technology, a certain practice or certain policy, can help to bring very very good talent? Okay, and it's kind of no brainer that it is bringing the best talent out in the market. So what do you think will be the next future of this? How will companies approach this, and how will it scale up in small and large and medium organizations, of course?
Sure, sure, perfect. I'll just maybe take 30 seconds to also talk about the employee referral aspect of it.
Okay.
It's a
Sure.
topic which is very close to my heart as well.
Okay.
I think, see, asking for employees to refer is very easy, right? I think all of us do that. But I think a very important aspect of it is actually honoring and acknowledging that, referral, which is where the
Mm.
biggest problem comes. And that's where a lot of negative feedback from the employees come. Here, referred somebody, nobody really responds. I don't even know why the TA is not at least picking the phone and talking to the candidate. I think that's a very crucial element. Just take that, like less than 30 seconds to acknowledge that mail, select or reject the candidate, and let the employee know. Either it's an automated system, update, or, if that is not available, at least making a manual effort to do that. Please do it, because otherwise the trust kind of gets lost if the initial experience itself is not great. So for me, that's kind of, it's like an evergreen problem. No company has really cracked this code, but I think these are small things which can really make an impact. Now, coming to the second aspect of it, I think it's again very crucial. And I will tell from my examples, right, in terms of the kind of companies I have worked in, both large and now in a smaller setup. it is very important that you include the employees as part of your brand ambassadors. It is not just on the TA or the HR or the hiring manager who's actually hiring for that role to actually represent and build that brand, for the organization. So make sure, you engage your employees in any which way. For example, if I'm recruiting somebody and, that person has actually onboarded the, organization, make sure you're inculcating that behavior from the beginning, right? Hey, I know you've joined newly, but can you maybe share your experience in terms of, how you felt, or, any things, that we can work on, interact with us. Make sure, you spread, the word to your network. And if in case there are any relevant openings, that comes in the same team, how can they actually be part of, advertising, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn actually also, is a fantastic space where we kind of get to post a lot. And of course, there are several such platforms, one can utilize, but that's one aspect of it. Many organizations that have been there, again, tech meetups and webinars are again a topic which is very, very close to my heart as well. It is even more important in the kind of place that we are in right now, because not many people, actually know the name of the organization I'm even working on, right? So it's important to actually spread the word, build the brand. And it's not just, in my own example, I'm not the only one who's doing it. I'm encouraging every employee in the organization to post something. If you have joined, tell people that you've actually joined this company, and that's how the people in your network, are actually going to know. So for me, that's important in this stage. So it depends on where you're actually prioritizing on how you need to build, your brand. If you're already like a super well-built, huge brand like a Google or an Amazon or a Facebook, then where you need to focus your priorities not just on the branding. Maybe there's a separate process or an employee referral or a diversity hiring which kind of lacks focus, and that's where you want to advertise, and you do that. So different organizations, the priority is different. And these small, communities of tech meetups, or making sure, your new joiners are, being part of, the actual brand ambassadors, kind of makes, those smaller contributions. So that's where it has actually helped me.
Great. And Preethi, so moving on to the next question. So what are the strategies which you think companies also employ to engage with, say, candidates who are not very active or passive candidates, and nurture them and talk to them, so that in the future when they are open, you are the first one which they talk to, or which they
Yes.
want to connect to. So how do you think, and you talked a lot about this proactiveness and sending say rejection emails or acknowledgement emails, whatever emails, to the candidates, so that they have kind of a good experience.
Yes.
But moving on to that, I will ask Preethi first, and then Khalid, I would also like to ask you on this. How do you engage with passive candidates? How do you keep them warm? How do you nurture relationships, so that the first one which comes into the mind when they are open for a job change is you guys? So
Yeah. I think again that's I would say a talent. I would say within the talent acquisition team, because a lot of times we are more reactive, right? Like requisition comes, then I go ahead and start searching like 100 platforms, to get a candidate. But there are few recruiters who actually share, or practice this, best practice in terms of keeping, their pipeline, maintaining contact with them. Like I know like a bunch of fantastic recruiters who I've worked with, who are still in touch with the candidates, that they offered, and the candidate rejected the offer, or they couldn't process, and they're still, in touch with him even after maybe 7, 8, or 10 years. But those are, of course, not something, that is born with, but it's more in terms of how passionate about, your job, and then, you kind of exhibit that. But some things that all of us can do is, every candidate that you interact with, he or she may have got rejected, but that doesn't mean that candidate is a reject for, for everything, right? Maybe you will jump into another company, or maybe the candidate has moved on, after 6 months, and, has kind of, possessed, the skills that, he got rejected for. There could be various scenarios, and make sure you're keeping in touch with, with those candidates. I think some of the things that I used to do, or rather, I probably not right now, but I've done a lot, is making sure you send them communication about what your organization is all about. Like, contents which can be shared, like a public content, not something which is more internal, to the organization, but whatever is largely available, but it's not so publicly available. Make a list of, such kind of communications, keep in touch with them, share, those communication. I think it's very important to close the loop with the candidate. That's when they actually acknowledge that you are a good recruiter. If the
Yes.
candidate has got selected, yes, we're all happy. We take it forward to the offer, and are very happy to go on and keep engaging with the candidates. But the minute it has not gone well, it has got rejected, we kind of shy away and not really close the loop, and that's where the kind of that anxiety comes between both the candidates and the TA, and it kind of falls apart after that. Just close it professionally and tell them, hey, what, I still want to keep in touch with you, because in future you might be the right candidate for us, for the role that we're looking for. That leaves such a positive impact on the candidates. So I think those small things are what matters, and there is no like world changing strategy that anybody has invented, to keep this as active. It's these small things which really matter, that kind of leaves a lasting impression, on the candidate. So those are some inputs from me.
Great. Yeah, actually, I agree with you, Preeti. So because a lot of work has already been gone, so the candidate may have rejected, but a lot of work in relationship building or discussion has already been gone. So maybe like keep doing that same work and then maybe get them when they are out for a change. So that is a very good valid point, Preeti. So over to you, Khalid. What are your thoughts on how to nurture relationships with passive candidates? And as like in a very fast growing organization like you, it is very helpful, like when companies like have a lot of interactions with kind of passive candidates, that helps a lot. So over to you, Khalid. So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. I think I would say plus one to what Preeti mentioned about rejected candidates. Never ghost your candidates. Never. Right. Irrespective, they're rejected, selected, on hold, whatever that is. Right. I'd say be transparent. Right. That's what you expect as a human. Think about yourself in their shoe. And if you've spent like 5 hours interviewing with them and then you're not hearing, how would you feel? Right. Would you kind of like, be vocal about, or would you suggest your friend to interview with their company, right? um, I'd say be a real human, right? There's a lot of AI tools that are coming in the market, and people are trying to automate their engagements using the ATS and different tools, right? But I think that would not fulfill the place of being a real human, right? Try to establish a connect with your folks, right? One of the things that I've followed, in the past, and I still follow, is
Okay.
once I have evaluated a high potential candidate, right, one of the top minds, those will actually gonna stay in my contact book for a fairly long time, right? And I've literally spent like more than a years to convert a successful hire out of a high potential candidate. And this I'm telling you with real experience, right? That
Okay.
it's not that I've heard the stories and stuff. I have did it myself, right? It has taken more than a years to really, literally convert them and bring them in the organization. The way I take this approach is basically make it a personal connect, right? It's like the behavior that you do with the people is going to attract the similar behavior, right? So I closely kind of track their activities, if they have posted something, if they have been promoted, what are they liking, and a lot of things, right? Everything is there on LinkedIn, it's right in front of you, and then you kind of build the things out of that, engage with them. If somebody is very excited after you have a discussion with them, I think you can have a discussion with them frequently, like maybe reaching out to them in 3-4 weeks once. But if somebody is not very keen, I'd say you still need to kind of recircle back to them after 3 months or so, right?
Okay.
So establish a connect, do not spam them, and be a real human to the people, and that's what is going to have to build and nurture the
Great
engagement.
insights, Khalid and Preeti. So my next question, I will start with Khalid now. Like, how can companies, they can make partnerships with, say, education institutions or communities? Okay, like different type of communities exist, like product management, marketing, TA communities are there, and also industry events. So to access basically a larger, like broad range of talent which is there. So there are a lot of events also. You see, like there are Python events, and there are other kinds of technology events, marketing events are there. So how can companies like build a strategy around, so that they can access? It's not like very like networking only, but also getting some like hardcore benefits from this kind of association and events.
Right. I mean, see, I'll just say, I kind of keep reading data and I'd say following the industry trends, right?
Mhm.
And one thing that I came across in the recent past is about more than 40% startups who are actually looking to tap the global market, right? Because we have that uh, product right now in India, right? Especially with the UPI thing, right? I think
Yeah.
we have built it, and that is something that is going to be used by the whole. Like, it's getting a lot of sort of um, uh, you know uh, fame in the overall world, right? So it's like we are now looking forward to tap into the different geographies and stuff. And in terms of events, right? There are hundred and thousand of events that happen across the world, which is kind of focused toward different topics.
Okay.
If I'm trying to build, if I have if I get an opportunity to kind of build a product team or a AI team and
Mm.
say in any of the geographies, I think I would like to attend some of these events, know what's going on in that geography, what is it that interests people, and also my my leadership team. I know like they would be kind of attending and making that presence felt in that geography. That yes, we also look are looking to expand in this region, right? And that's how you kind of uh, establish your presence, right? In terms of educational institutes, see, I'd leave apart the pedigrees and big institutes. I know, companies goes for campus recruitment and stuff, but I've seen a different kind of rise in institutes that are offering specialized skills such as Upgrad, Scalar, Masai, right? And
Mm.
these are very useful when you are kind of trying to have folks who are very, very um, high on intent in terms of developing and upscaling themselves, right? So somebody being working on Java and then taking a course from say Masai or Scalar into Node.js is right up front an intent for you that he is very much interested toward upskilling and moving forward in the career,
Mm.
right? So you can tap into those institutes, interview folks, and can grab them and have them support.
Great, great, great. So a lot of new avenues are opened up. Like when we encountered COVID, there are a lot of communities which have come up to help
Yeah.
and support each other, and that community has expanded. So Preeti, I wanted to have an understanding from you. How does companies they are forging, like as Khalid has said, like with like colleges and with this new age colleges, and plus these communities which we already have, that which are into existence and have become larger and bigger, and it is helping a lot because there are a lot of things going on in new age social media kind of circles like Telegram or Discord, or if you see the new age coming in like Web3, which is purely based on community based growth. So how do you think the next phase, and how do you think companies can access a lot of more talent rather than the regular places where they are, plus these communities? So how can communities and this kind of events and college partnerships help in accessing a large variant uh, pool of talent?
Sure. So about the communities, I'll answer second because it's going to be a bit controversial. So I'm going to take the
Okay.
educational part of it first.
Okay.
I think a lot of us in the TA org, treat universities and partnership with universities as a one-way channel. I have a requirement to hire a fresher. I'll come to you. I'll do an event and I'll hire absorb 10 people or so. I think that's fading off. I think it's very important to engage with the student population, not
Mm.
just for hiring. I think
Yes.
that's not how it's ever going to work, at least from now on, because people are not going to just suddenly one day discover, oh, this company is great, I want to apply and I'll get a job. I think build that, and there are various methodologies in terms of how you can build that partnership with with universities. It could be project work, like pick a bunch of students, give them like live project that you can work on, and you will get phenomenal results, right? It can be as small as just reviewing a code. Those kind of assignments are very easy, and they kind of it kind of adds on to their profile, and they'll give in their 100% to do that. I think the second would be in terms of, I've been in organizations where actually the employees of the organization have actually visited the universities on a weekly basis to teach a specific technology. And I think it's
Okay.
where you give to the students because you have a need, and then eventually the students recognize you as a brand, and then apply and want to work with you as an organization. So I think those kind of things are important, and not just having like one big booth on annual day, and then and giving away goodies is all that fading away, I would say. I think look for alternate ways in terms of how you can engage with students and the universities, and not just look at it from a hiring perspective, because that's not going to work. The second part about how do you really engage communities and events from a talent attraction perspective. The reason I said controversial is because honestly I've not seen any positive hire or outcome come out of it. Right? It is
Okay.
a great platform from branding perspective to have the candidates acknowledged, but I think it never kind of is fruitful in terms of hiring that one solid candidate that I've been looking for the last 3 months. I found this guy on this particular community, and and he applied. It is very, very rare to get something like that. For me,
Hmm.
it is a great platform to know what I think it's more popular within the tech community. Like if
Hmm.
I'm a Golang specialist, and I know that there's a community, and I can interact with that kind of group of people to know more in terms of what's happening and how I can advance and how I can mentor with somebody who can take me to the next level. It's great. But I think from a talent acquisition perspective, honestly, there's not a lot of result that's coming in terms of I have tapped into some of these to get, but it
Okay.
can be a great platform for brand building, for building your network, for various other things. But because it is not long lived, there is no result for me to prove it with data saying that, hey, XYZ event and community helped me hire 25 people so far. So
Understood.
still work in progress, but it's not my first place to go to for hiring or attracting talent.
Okay, great. So, Preethi, the next question for you is very important as we speak. Um, the talent pools have become fluid during this COVID era, and like companies have got a benefit that they can hire from anywhere, from tier two, tier three, even from abroad. Okay, and also there has been a very, very like vast change in how they think. Like there is a lot of contribution from the LGBTQ communities in the companies. Diversity is being looked up. Okay, and right now as we speak, there is a lot of cultural differences between various team members, but they are all in one. They're all like, the cultural values are different because they have been hired from different parts of the country or maybe abroad. So how do you think creating a very environment, like with what are the best practices the companies can implement to promote this kind of equity, diversity, inclusions, and to create a very dynamic workforce which can also attract a lot of very good folks who want to be like in a company which actually cares?
Hmm. Okay. So there are two questions in the question that you asked. So I'm going to mentally split that question into two. So the first question is in terms of how do we leverage this new work mode in terms of, people are in different places, and how do we get the best out of it? I'll answer that first. And then I'll answer the diversity, aspect of it.
Hmm.
I think it is, I think still it's the first option is, of course, I think a lot of people have started realizing that, and this is all just my input. I'm sure different people will have different perspective about it, but I think you increase your productivity the more flexibility you give, to the employees. I think the best methodology to get the best out of candidates is to leave it to them. Do you want to work remote? Do you want to work from your wherever you are, or if the organization is for hybrid, go with that. But I'm not, when the entire COVID and lockdown started, I was very apprehensive that, oh my god, work from home is going to continue for 2 weeks. Then the 2 weeks actually eventually became 2 years, right? And at that point, the first 2 weeks I was like, god, when is this going to get over, and when can I come back to office? But as the days went by, I kind of got more accustomed to, the work from home, because it's so much beneficial, and especially for people who live in cities like Bangalore, the traffic kills. No matter which day and which time of the week you are out, it is brutal. So I think it kind of saves up the time. You're at your space, you can be wearing your own comfortable clothes. And I think that's when again, my own example, I think I get the best out of it, when I'm there. But that doesn't mean that you can work wherever you want to. And, they absolutely, it's up to employees, value system and how much they really want to contribute to that, right? So if you really trust your employee and give them that flexibility, I think that kind of works beautifully, either it is hybrid, remote, or virtual, or whatever you want to call it as. So for me, that is important. You can hire from anywhere. The candidates can work out of whichever place they are in. You don't have to push them to come to work for all 5 days. It's not going to work.
Okay.
To answer the second part of your question, it's a very touchy topic, right? And it's been there in the focus for many years right now. Diversity, like how do we really leverage diversity? How do we make sure we get more value out of it? Again, might be something that I may not truly believe to actually have certain percentage of diversity goal you have to achieve as a recruiter. I have had such organizations and I have pushed that down my recruiters as well, but honestly that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be organically. You'll have to get that inflow, and it's not just an end goal of out of 100 hires I make, 40% of it has to be women candidates. I mean, that logic itself is somewhere completely wrong, because it's just a number that you're chasing towards, and everything else kind of dilutes. For me, a lot of things comes before that. I think enabling the panel to evaluate and assess the right candidates doesn't mean you dilute the bar, right? A lot of companies and managers think that, hey, you know what, if I'm expecting XYZ from a male, maybe I'll expect XY and I'll still hire a female candidate. Don't do that. I mean, that's not needed. And first of all, don't stick to a certain percentage of hires. Start from the base. Like, make sure you're adding more slate initial to the pipeline, and that's good enough. If I'm able to bring 4 women candidates out of 10 in the initial pipeline, that's good. Don't push it all that every level needs to have a certain percentage and the end goal has to be a certain percentage. It has to organically grow, and there is no math to force fit it, at least according to me.
Great. Lovely insights, Preethi. Thank you so much. So Khalid, over to you. What are your thoughts on this, like the diversity, inclusion, equity, which is coming up? And also, what I have been seeing, a lot of companies are also preferring people, like also allowing people to apply for jobs who are not from a different background, say from army veteran, and others also applying. So what are your thoughts on this, Khalid?
Right, I'll take dive. I mean, again, right, there are, as Preethi mentioned, right, there are like 2 different questions, but I'll focus on dive. Take it a little further than male and female employees, right? For me, I'd say diversity, like, first thing to address is, as a TA, I focus on removing the unconscious bias in the recruiting. Right, there's a lot of unconscious bias. It's sometimes you're interacting with the hiring manager, he sees a profile, it's like, oh, he's not coming from an engineering background, he's a BSc IT, he's a BCA, he's not an engineering grad, right? I mean, with my experience, I have seen a lot of folks excelling without even having an engineering degree. And there are many examples, at least I'd say, in a practical experience way, that I've seen people coming from BCom, background, and right now leading the entire engineering function in some of the top startups in India or well-established company in India, right? So for me, removing that unconscious bias in recruiting is very, very important when it comes to diversifying my, pipeline and creating a more dynamic workforce that everyone is going to employ, right? Not everyone that you're looking to recruit is going to come from the pedigree, right? Not everybody that joins in the big FANG companies are from pedigree.
I think there's some issue with the internet.
Workforce environment over there, and that's something I think everyone enjoys working into, right? So being said that, I think expanding the sourcing net is very, very important, right? Do not limit it to a specific targeted companies or specific educational institutes, if you're like kind of trying to scale your hiring. If it's like a very, very strategic hiring, very focused approach, I'd say, okay, yeah, still go ahead with it because it's just one or two in number. But if you're trying to scale it from 10 to 100, honestly, that approach is not going to work. You need to sort of expand your source net.
Okay, great.
Right?
So, with that, we come to the end of the question answer round. So, we have some audience questions which we have compiled, and anyone of you can take up any question. Like we have 4 5 questions. I have shortened into 4 questions because we are running out of time. So, the first question goes from Nitya. So, Nitya has asked that how do you balance the need for specialized skills in your talent pool and the importance of diverse capabilities to address challenges in industries. So, any one of you can take up this question.
Khalid, do you want to take a stab at it?
No, I think you go ahead. I'll take the next one.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again, Sarbajit?
Like the basic question is, how do you balance specialized skills? Like some skills will be specialized skills and some skills will be diverse capability. So it's kind of a what you call in today's language the T model. So specialized in one and they know a lot of other skills. So how do you think this kind of candidates are very important to help you balance a lot of stuff which can be unforeseen and like scaling up kind of challenges which throw in?
Got it. I think from hiring of specialized skills, I would say, of course, you're already niche in the market, right? So first, thumb rule again that I have followed is, you can't get the perfect candidate, from a specialization perspective that you are looking for versus what's available in the market. Especially
Yes.
for all the, new technologies, it's only, booming now. So a lot of candidates are still learning. So don't expect everything to be perfect, there. And this is something related to even, from a job description perspective. As a recruiter, if you are being given a job description, just don't go that, all of it should be there in terms of, from the candidate search that you're having. So look at least 60,
Okay.
70% of the candidate and be the, the recruiter who can actually again, I would say, influence your business or sell the candidate, to your business in terms of how do you really nurture, that kind of, pipeline. So for me, it is a lot of play from, from talent acquisition perspective, not, sticking to the fact that it has to be like a perfect match in terms of, what you're looking for. And again, when you build such a pipeline, again, make sure you're making the most out of it because the skill set and the pipeline itself is so narrow that, again, you shouldn't be going out to the market. Make them your brand ambassadors and see how they can be part of helping you from, from building the talent pipeline.
Okay, great. So I think she has got the answer. Now I'll go to the next question. I think Khalid, you want to take this question? It's from Omar from Hyderabad. So he has asked that what are some effective techniques for maintaining engagement and communication with the candidates in your talent pool and ensure they remain interested and committed to the potential opportunities with your organization.
Right. So I mean, think of, building a vast talent pool, right? And it is not going to happen overnight, right? You need a proper framework to, right, find the qualified candidates and then retain their information, right? You will also need to determine, right, how are you going to include your internal employees, right, in the talent pool for your longer or future sort of upcoming roles, right? Are there, what is the set of people that could actually be grown into the next level, right? How often do you kind of interact with your hiring managers and stuff, right? I know, you're a talent acquisition person. Most of the time, will think like, okay, we are just a recruiter. What do we do? I think that mindset needs to be changed. We are no more a support function. Talent acquisition plays a very critical role, and it's time that you should start. Like I do see, or I kind of promote that kind of culture in my team. Is you are a partner to your hiring managers. right?
Okay.
You need to know who all are there in the team, who is going to be promoted, if there are people who could actually take up the future roles, right? And in terms of retaining the information, an ATS plays a very, very critical role for you, right? That could actually record all the information for you: when the candidate was last interviewed, what was the feedback, at what stage he was selected or rejected or dropped out, what was the reason for it, right? And I think, even more important than that, whenever you're connecting with your prospects, uh, develop a understanding on their aspiration. What motivates them? Why would they want to switch their career? What is it that they are kind of focusing on the coming 1 2 year cycle, right? They might not be looking out for an opportunity to change their job right away, right then, but they would be looking in future, right?
Yeah.
And having that understanding on the aspiration, um, and the interest level, you can decide to increase or decrease the frequency of your follow-ups and engagement.
Great, great. So I think Omar has got the answer. Next question, I think we have answered in detail. So I will skip on the next question from Gaurav. I'll move on to the last question. I think Preeti can answer this. And Rakshita from Bombay has asked that, can you share any examples of innovative recruitment marketing campaigns or initiatives that have been successfully attracting high quality candidates and have strengthened your talent pool? Any examples she wants to have
Sure.
from you? Yeah.
Sure. I think a couple of it, and I think parts of it were already there in some of the examples and answers I gave. I think one of
Yeah.
the crucial aspect, and I've personally been very passionate about, is these tech meetups. Like
Okay.
utilize your internal employees who are subject matter expertise in a specific technology or a skill, and
Mm,
see how you can leverage on that in
mm,
different ways. Right? You can conduct a workshop of candidates or freshers who are actually interested to know more about that. I'll give you an example. Even before I joined, with the current organization I was there, we did like a detailed workshop on Golang, and it was more like bring in your own laptop, and then we kind of trained them, and then it was like a very engaging session. So I think those kind of meetups and tech sessions kind of been an advantage for us. Again, it's very difficult to point finger and say that okay, in this meetup 30 people came, of which I hired one person. That shouldn't be your strategy. I would
mm,
say that look at it for the beneficial of the organization branding and for the candidates learning.
mm.
Eventually that's a kind of database and pool who will actually come to you the next time when there is an opportunity, because that's a brand recall value that they have, and they'll think about you when they're actually looking out. So don't look at immediate ROI. It's never going to happen. That shouldn't be the intent when you start off with. So that's been beneficial. And I think the second, and I'll just take 20 seconds, is the partnership with universities that I just mentioned. And I think I'm
Mm.
again a very passionate topic of for me is not just go do a PPT and hire people. It is about engaging with them, collaborating them on various things, which helps the students and the organization. And the end result, even after 3 years, should be beneficial to both the organization and the institute. So I think those are a couple of things that I will always do.
Great.
So,
So with
Sarthajit,
yeah,
if you
okay.
could give me
Yeah.
like 2 minutes,
Yeah,
just two
yes.
minutes, right? Because
Okay.
this is
Please go.
very interesting topic, right?
Okay.
I think one of the very innovative recruitment marketing approach that I have seen or I have been following is use the power of storytelling.
Okay.
It's very powerful. Um, think about a story as an something to showcase your culture, the life of your folks, their achievements, and their growth stories. Right. Think of when people will go back to home, right, or when they finish their interviews, what are they going to talk to their friends and family about your brand, about your company, right? And as we all know, the marketing, the word of mouth is a very, very powerful tool, right? So if you're able to give them that experience, right, create that, connect with them via the storytelling mode, I think that is going to leave a very lasting impact, right? So I would basically divide it into three parts. So every story has the hero, the mentor, and the villain, right? So heroes are your candidates. Villain is the problem that you are actually trying to solve, and mentors are the people who are going to actually help them solve the problem. right? So if you are kind of able to basically give this story in those lines, I think it makes it very interesting chat for most of the folks.
Great, great, lovely insights, guys. Khalid and Preeti, and thank you for joining us, and thank you taking time from your busy schedule to join us. And to all the folks who have joined us and who have messaged us, thank you so much for coming in and joining in. And with that, we come to an end. Thank you guys for joining in. Take care and have fun. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Sarbajit. Thank you for hosting. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.